Class is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Hello, everyone. My name is Bre. I'm part of the customer success team over here at commonsku, and I will be walking you through shortcuts to learn everything about shops today. Now, thank you all for joining me right away. I really do appreciate prompt and on time. That being said, I am going to wait just a few minutes as more people start joining the call. Now, I have got a lot of content that I'm excited to show you today, so you are more than welcome to take notes as we are going along. But just a heads up, we are recording this session, and we will be able to post a recording of this to our YouTube channel afterwards. So if you want to sit back, relax, and just take things in, that is an option as well. You'll be able to review this later on. Now, on another note, if you happen to have any questions before we get started, you are welcome to type them out in the questions panel of the webinar. I'm not going to be able to go through them during our actual session today, but at the end of the call, I can take those questions and send direct emails to ensure that they're answered for you. So whether you've got questions right off the bat or whether things are popping up as we're going through today's session, please just type them out in the questions panel of the webinar. Myself or another member of my team will be able to get back to you with a response. Okay, so we are just going to hang tight for a few more minutes. While we are doing that, I'm going to try my best not to hum to you guys. I know I like singing to myself, but I'm sure you've all had enough of that already. So if you want to grab a cup of coffee, I'm going to give it about another minute or two, and then we'll jump in. So for anyone who is just joining the webinar, I am just going to wait about one more minute for others to pop on the call. Then we're going to dive into today's content. We will be reviewing the front and back end of all three of our shop types. So it'll be a full tour today. Now, that being said, if you've got any questions, feel free to type them out in the questions panel of the webinar after today's session. Myself or another member of my team will be able to reach out with some answers. Now, as always, we are also recording this webinar, so it will be posted later on. If you just want to sit back, relax, watch things as we're going along, you can always review this later in case you'd like to take some notes at that point. Alrighty. You know what? We are going to dive in and get started. So again, thank you so much for joining me on today's session. We will be reviewing the front and back end of all of our different shop types, so really giving you a full tour of what your end client is going to experience, as well as how you can get things set up on the back end. So let's just get started by going over our agenda for today. So like I mentioned, viewing the three different shop types, we are going to kick things off with our company shop. From there, we'll move on to the pop-up. Pop-ups are really unique because they allow you to aggregate different orders. So that's going to be an exciting one to explore. Once we're done, we'll move on to the marketing shop and of course, wrap up with some best practices. I want to leave you on some good notes as you're getting started, whether you're creating shops for the first time or you've already got some that you're working on. So let's kick things off with that company shop. Now, company shops are designed for a single, should probably let you see that. There we go. So they are designed for a single company. They're kind of a perfect custom store solution. So whether it's going to be a corporate or franchise store, ultimately these have pre-approved products and the sales orders that are created are going to meet supplier minimums. So the really important thing to note about company shops is that it is one-to-one. One order placed through the shop is going to create one sales order inside commonsku. So let's look at some cases that these are going to be helpful. So perfect for things like welcome kits or restock items. So if you have frequent orders that you're filling for your client, rather than having to get that created from scratch or copied each time, you're just giving them a shop to pop into and they can order from there. This is also good for multiple departments or locations. So instead of them having to run things through a head office and through you, through all these different channels, they can just click into the shop and place their order. So franchise systems, of course, that's going to be a great fit. And then overall, just companies who want control of the products that they are offering. So let's take a look at the front end of a company shop. This is what your client would be experiencing. Now, the example that I'm going to give today is a stock shop. So again, these are going to be restock items. We'll walk through the back end in just a little bit. So we'll cover the different design options that you have available here. Once your client clicks to actually enter the shop, they're going to see all of the products that you've made available. Now, just like our presentations, they can be using titles. This is great to hone in on specific product types. This is also a really good way to create product categories. So if there are different departments ordering from the same shop, you can break it out into categories here. Makes it really easy to see what items are for them. Now, just like presentations, they can hover over and see some brief detail. Of course, when you're adding the products, you can be uploading multiple images. And because this is a company shop, these are typically going to be branded images. So you've already got your client's artwork in here. This is showing exactly what they would be receiving. Now, once they're ready to actually add products in, they can choose from the different size color options that are available. So for example, in this case, I've already added some pens here. We've got those in both black and navy blue. Once they make that selection, they do need to pick their quantity. Now, minimum quantities are enforced in company shops. Again, the sales order that's created from this is ultimately what we're going to put into production. And I don't want to put 10 pens into production. Our minimum quantity for this one is 250. So your client can keep shopping. They can add as many items as they like. And once they are ready, they can then click to checkout. Now, I just want to make note of what we're seeing on the bottom here. We've got the order total, and in this example, it might exclude things like shipping, freight, and taxes. Well, there actually are ways that you can wrap up shipping, freight, and taxes into your orders. So we'll go through those options when we take a look at the back end. So once we click the checkout, more options are available. So your client can enter billing or shipping details. Now for my shop, I've made this open-ended, so anybody can type in their information as far as the contact goes. However, the addresses are predefined. You get a lot of flexibility when it comes to this. So if your client has certain employees that can only use the shop, you can also make this a drop-down as well. So I'm just going to enter some quick info here. We'll grab the billing and shipping information. Now, if we take a look over at the right-hand side, we are beginning to count what they're ordering, so they've got the subtotal of the products. And in this example, I haven't included any shipping, freight, or taxes. So ultimately, once the client submits the order, I will be adding those to the final order. Now, you can add shipping, kind of Amazon style, where it's based on the subtotal, so we'll look at that in a bit. And you can also add taxes. In fact, you can turn this into a full-on credit card checkout. So we have direct integrations with Stripe and Card Connect. Instead of saying submit order, this could allow your client to pay by credit card right away. Now, before they leave, they can add any comments. So in case there's information they want to let you know. And once they submit their order, they are going to get a checkout screen. So this is just letting them know next steps. Very popular things to be adding here if you are not adding the full charges is just mentioning this is not an invoice. Final charges will still be included. So that's the client experience of the shop. Let's take a look at the back-end settings. So inside the general settings, this is where you're defining things like the shop name, as well as assigning the rep. Now, this is important across all shops. The order rep is going to get an email notification as orders begin to come through. This order rep must be a full Common SKU user, so just make sure you've got the proper person here. Now, separate from the order rep, you can have a shop contact. So just in case the shoppers have questions about the items, maybe you don't want them to reach out to you, you might have a point of contact at your client that's best. You can actually add their information to the shop contact, and this is the contact that will appear in the shop itself. So of course, if they have questions, this is where they'll be directed to. Now, if we look below, there's something called a splash screen. This is the first thing your client is going to see when they open the shop, so great place to put any instructions that you would like them to follow. Scrolling a little bit further, you can capture shipping charges. So again, these are going to be based on subtotals. Just add the ranges and the charges that match. And then we get some options with checkout. So this is really specific to what your client wants. You can decide if you have a predefined list that can be using the shop, in which case they can only select their name from a drop-down. You can also leave it a little bit more open-ended and also allow them to type the contact information. In fact, if these are new contacts and you'd like to capture their information for future reference, you can even take it a step further and actually add those contacts to your client profile. So that's a good way to build out the client profile without you having to enter it on your end. Now, if we scroll to the very bottom, there is a checkout message. So like we saw, this is the final thing that they're going to see once they have completed their order. Great place to put information on next steps. Now, the last thing I want to mention for company shops is, of course, you can turn this into a credit card checkout. If you opt to turn it into a credit card checkout, though, we do need to know where you are shipping to. The reason we need to know shipping information is just so we can add the appropriate tax. So in my example, there was no tax on the order because I didn't have a credit card checkout. This is an option that's available. Now we will be looking at the settings for each shop type because they are a little bit different. So that's the basics for company shops. Next, we're going to go into products. This is just like adding products to any of your forms. So we do have our different databases. You can be adding from ESP, Distributor Central, your company database, or supplier collections. Unfortunately, Sage integration is not available through shops, but you do have those other alternatives. Now, once your products are in here, you are going to begin to edit them. And it's very important you're taking the time to build out this information. We've got the quantity over here, which is the minimum quantity enforced in the shop. You'll also want to add an artwork location at this level. So same as presentations, this is ultimately going to flow to that final sales order, ensures you have the artwork and ensures you've already got pricing. Last step is you can just also add titles. Great way to create product categories, keep everything nice and neat when your client is shopping in here later on. Now below there is design. Design is the same across all shops. So we have 3 different themes that you can be using. This example is a split theme, takes an image and then splits it in half, just zooming in a little bit. You can also use a featured products theme, which we'll be exploring shortly. We'll also take a look at the billboard theme at the end. So we'll go through examples of all 3 of these. Now we have a product style list versus tile or grid. These are just different layout options depending on the images you have inserted. Last stop here is just choosing your accent color. So easiest option is just to enter the different color codes. This is what the text is going to appear in. And if you're using the split theme, it's also going to be the color of the right-hand side. Now, a couple more things to touch on. You can change the title of the landing page, and you can also change what this button says. So by default, it says Browse All Products. You can update that if you like. Now, sending out shops is the same as sending out presentations. They actually are live links. You are more than welcome to email that link through commonsku. You can go right ahead and send it to your contacts through here. But depending on your relationship with the client or how they want to get the store out there, as long as they have this link, that's all that the shoppers will need to access this. Now let's take a look at some of the orders that are coming through a company shop. So as soon as a shopper completes their order, it's going to tier here into the Orders tab. And because it creates a sales order right away, you can click into it. Now, first stop is always going to be that project overview. I'd like to note that if the shopper had made any comments, you would see them in this area. Also, if this was a full credit card checkout, an invoice would automatically be created as well and sent to the shopper. Now, if we just pop into the sales order, in my example, there's still more details that I'd want to add. So I would want to capture the tax and any additional charges that weren't already included here. So again, we have shipping based on subtotals. If that does not match what you need, you can always add shipping at this level as well. Now, next steps are going to depend on what your client needs. Maybe you're sending this order out for formal approval. Maybe you're creating an invoice or a deposit invoice right away before production, or maybe you're just moving it into production as normal. So next steps vary depending on what your client needs. Definitely a good thing to have locked down before you get these shops made. All right, so that is the company shop. The next thing we're going to take a look at is the pop-up shop. So the really special thing about pop-up shops is that they allow you to combine single checkouts into a master sales order for your client. So I want to emphasize this. You can have 100 different shoppers placing orders through pop-up shops. You can then combine all of those orders into a single order for your end client. So it's going to keep things nice and clean when you move it into production. You'll have purchase orders that meet supplier minimums, and ultimately you'll have that nice document for your client as well. So on that note, the pop-up details actually export as a CSV file. So your client can very clearly see who ordered what and what price they paid for it. Last thing I want to mention about pop-ups is that they have a special retail price. The retail price is what you're charging the shopper. That can be different than what your client is actually paying you. Now, that difference might be used towards a donation. Maybe your client is using it for some sort of program, but either way, it gives your client the opportunity to make money on this shop as well. Now, some good use cases, of course, school programs like uniforms, spirit wear, any camp programs, gifts, or even events. So events is a really big one. If there's going to be some sort of marathon, for example, and people are going to have to go and pick up items, rather than playing the guessing game of what sizes are and potentially running out of options, you can just have a pop-up beforehand. So your client knows what people are ordering. They've already collected money. They don't need to do that on site, and they can ensure that they have the proper quantity and sizes. All right, so let's take a look at a pop-up shop. Again, we're going to jump into the client experience. So the pop-up that I have here is for a softball team. Again, first thing we see is that splash screen gives them the welcome information and contact information. Now this is a different layout option. So this is that featured products view. Previously we had the split theme. The featured products allow you to feature specific items. Now from here, once the client clicks to shop, it's going to be a similar experience. So they can still use titles to hone in on different product types, hover over the products for brief detail, and then click into order. Now I want to emphasize the price that the client is seeing here is that set retail price. And the idea behind pop-ups is you are going to have multiple shoppers. So when our client is going to add this product, it is not enforcing minimums. At the end of the day, we're going to be able to combine these different orders so that the final order meets minimums. Okay, other than that, same thing. You can have different colors that are available. When the client clicks to add, they're just going to make selections from there. And once they're ready, they can click to check out. Now, the shopper is going to have to enter their information. So what's their name? What is their email address? Another cool feature about pop-ups is that you can actually add custom questions, and you can decide if your shopper needs to answer this. So whether this is information that you need to process the order or information that your client is going to need later on, you can have the question in here. And you can also make these mandatory. So for example, I can't submit the order without answering this detail. Now, in this case, we have submit order, but pop-ups can also be turned into credit card checkout. So you can take direct payment from the shopper, and again, they're just paying that base retail price. You can also assign a general tax to the pop-up shop as well. The assumption with pop-ups is that they are shipping to one location, so you can have the tax that would apply for that location. So again, once they go to submit their order, they're just going to see that checkout screen that you've made available. Still a good place to put next steps so that they know what they can expect. Now I'm going to pop into the back end of a pop-up shop. There are a couple differences that I want to focus on here. The first thing that I want to mention is the order rep. You still want to have the order rep as a full common SKU user, but with pop-up shops, we do not send email notifications every time orders are placed. The reason is you might have hundreds of orders flowing through here. We don't want to spam your inbox or spam the shop contacts inbox. So just a heads up, there are no email notifications for pop-ups. Now at this time, we are defining the specific billing and shipping address. The assumption is it's going to one location, so we'll get that defined right away. Below there, that splash screen, so again, what they will see on the introduction, or if they're clicking the help button. If you'd like to apply a tax, that's where you can choose to do so. This is also where you can choose to enable that credit card checkout. Now, pop-ups have another cool feature called a checkout limit. This allows you to limit the maximum spend amount. So if your client is actually the one who's paying for this and they have a cap on what they're wanting to pay for each shopper, you can add that in here. Just ensures the shopper cannot exceed that limit. Below, we've got those checkout questions, so allowing you to request additional information. Now you can decide if these are text fields like the one I had, or you can even make them select fields where the shopper actually has to pick from a predefined list of options. Now I'm going to click into products. The big difference with products in a pop-up shop is that retail pricing. So the retail pricing is what is going to show to the shopper, and that may be different than the end net cost. Now, this kind of depends on how billing is working. Some pop-up shops might not have a retail price. They might just want the shoppers to come in here, order their items, and ultimately the client is paying you at the end of the day. So whether or not you're using the credit card charge is really going to define what retail price you need to have here. Now, in the event that you are charging the shopper, again, they are going to pay the flat retail. And if there ends up being a difference between the actual order cost and the retail price, that money is for your client. So they get a piece of the pie as well. Now, aside from that, things are going to be the same. So popping into design, we've still got those different options. This one has the featured product theme. Again, take the time just to choose the best list style, color, and then make any final edits. Pop-ups also send as a live link. So whether you're sending this out to everybody or giving it to a point of contact, they can distribute from there. Now, going into the orders, the different checkouts that are created will actually be tiered into the Checkouts tab. Ultimately, you're going to be able to take all of these different checkouts and combine them into a single order. Now, if you want to do this on a regular basis, you can also add them to existing orders, so kind of building it out. Now, that checkout detail can be exported as a CSV file. That's something you'll be giving to your end client. You can also view the checkout information in here as well. So just see the information of what people have ordered. Once that sales order is created, it tiers into the Orders tab, and of course, you can click into it directly. So here we are inside the sales order. Now again, any additional information you would want to capture at this point. So if there wasn't a tax, you'll want to add the tax here. You can also include any additional charges. Now I want to highlight, even though there might be 100 different shoppers, we're not going to make 100 different line items. We do combine the items based on how they were laid out in the shop initially. Now, a big difference with the pop-up is that there is now a checkouts area as well. So this is where you can continue to view and manage the checkouts from, ultimately sending that CSV to your client. So again, next steps are going to depend on your agreement with the client. If the shoppers didn't actually pay anything, maybe you'll be sending this out to your client for final approval. Maybe you'll be making that invoice or moving into production. Now, last stop is going to be the marketing shop. So marketing shops help you reach your entire client base as well as new prospects. This is really just creating a curated selection of products that you can be showing people. So this might be something you're gearing towards a bit of a niche, or you could have a marketing shop that has popular uniform orders or wedding ideas, or really, I guess anything. You've probably checked out the eco-friendly shop as well. So if you have specific segments of clients that like to purchase similar products, you can send them all a marketing shop and then they can see what's available. Now, ways to share your shop, sending in an email blast, of course. You can also embed it on your website. So that does take a little bit of coding. We've got a help article that can give you an example of that. And then last stop, just adding it to your email signature. Anyone that's emailed me recently has probably seen a couple shops, so that's a sneaky way to get it in there as well. So last stop is going to be to take a look at a marketing shop. So I've got a marketing shop for our SKU Camp merch. This is demo only, and I do have it in my signature. You're more than welcome to check it out after. And I actually just created the shop from the collection. So suppliers did a lot of the work for me. I just clicked a couple buttons. So same thing, popping in, seeing the products that are available. Now, marketing shops are unique because you might not actually know the shopper. So when they click to add the product, we are going to enforce minimum quantities, but we're also going to get them to actually upload their artwork. This is ultimately the artwork that you are going to add to the final order. Now, as soon as they submitted their artwork at least once, they can continue to shop and the artwork is going to be saved there. So anything else that they're adding it to, they can just use that existing logo. Now, because you might not know this person, this one definitely excludes shipping, freight, and taxes. Those are details you'll want to add to the final sales order. So when they click to check out, they are going to need to enter their information. And once they submit, that creates a sales order in the system. So let's pop to the back end here. Just beginning with settings, the settings for these ones are quite general. So same thing with reps, same thing with the splash screen, and then simply having a checkout message. Now building out products is going to be the same method as well. I'm not sure if I mentioned this in the company shop, so I'm definitely going to add it now. Whatever minimum quantity you are enforcing in the product level, this is the minimum quantity that's available in the shop. So just ensure this is the lowest that you want them to order. That's all that they'll be able to select in the shop. Okay, design options, we've got the same one. So this is kind of the final with the billboard image, large image at the back. And then again, sends as a hyperlink. So whether you're embedding in a website, sending an e-blast, or adding to your signature, that option is there. As soon as the orders are created, they are also going to tier into the orders tab. Now, since you might not have a relationship with this client, maybe it's a brand new prospect, you can actually click into these new checkouts and assign client data. So if the system recognizes this person, it will give you a recommendation of who it should go to. If this is a brand new client, you can also just create a new account as well. So very easy way to get client information inside the system without you having to enter it. From there, we'll move into the final sales order. And of course, let's just click in for this example. So you'll definitely want to capture additional details at this level because again, we don't have a relationship with this client. So adding in any additional services that are going to be there, making any adjustments to the tax, and very likely you're going to want to send this sales order out. There may still be a little bit of back and forth after they place an order with a marketing shop, especially if this is their first time doing business with you. But once that's ready to go, you can continue into production as normal. Now, the last thing I want to touch on is going to be best practices. So our first best practice, start with a presentation. Okay? If you are creating a shop for the first time, it's a good idea to begin with a presentation. You are probably already comfortable with these forms, and you probably still need to run some ideas by your client. So beginning with a presentation will give you the opportunity to build out all of that product detail in a more familiar way. Afterwards, we can take that to a shop. Now, the next thing is, of course, collaborate with suppliers. So if you are starting a presentation, you can be reaching out to different suppliers, whether you're looking for new product ideas or frankly, whether you need virtuals created. That's a really easy way to get a branded shop done without you having to do the artwork on your own. Now, third one, and it ties into those two, is of course you can copy existing forms into shops. So if you've made a presentation, you've collaborated with suppliers, you have new ideas, and it's now ready to go, you can just hit the actions button and copy that into a shop, and you're almost done. There's going to be a couple fine details to build out, of course, looking in settings and ensuring the design is ready, but you'll have done a lot of the work on the front end. Now, final best practice, check out our Keys to Unlocking the Most Profitable Shops blog series. If you haven't already seen that, Bobby has released 2 great parts so far. There's still more to come. So we definitely recommend looking at that if you'd like more detail on qualifying customers or different pricing options as well. So how you're going to charge your clients for shops. All right, so that is everything that we are going to cover today. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for joining me on this session. I am going to hang out just for another minute in case there are any final questions you would like to submit. Again, you can just add those to the questions panel of the webinar. Another option, of course, is if you head into commonsku, you can be checking out our support resources. So we do have a variety of shops help articles that's going to walk you through similar content that we covered today, just in more bite-sized chunks. And the support team is also available. So whether you want to reach out through your profile icon or at support@commonsku.com, we're happy to help with any other questions or to get things clarified as you're beginning to build out your shops. All right, thank you so much, everyone. I'm going to close this down now. We'll get back to your questions as soon as we can. Enjoy the rest of your day.